start. So I wanted to begin this class, as I said, for people who have already studied some Vedanta, but also for newcomers, you will find some benefit from this studying these initial texts. So today I thought it will be interesting for you all to see what the use of these texts is and what is actually Vedanta as a means of knowledge, why it is considered as an independent means of knowledge, means to know. Because without that Shraddha, without that commitment to the Vedanta pursuit, not an academic pursuit. So it can be taken as an academic pursuit also. One can easily spend life memorizing all the verses, memorizing the mantras, writing papers and having publications. But this is not the reason why we are studying. And the reason why we are studying is for spiritual enlightenment, spiritual awakening. If not, if we're not aiming for that, at least a life lived in peace and harmony and happiness, right? If we don't know what the meaning of enlightenment and liberation and all of that is, at the least we want is to live our lives happily and in peace and contentment. So here is where Vedanta comes into the picture. There is a very famous saying in the Shastra, Vedanto nama Upanishad pramana. This Vedanta is a pramana, a means of knowledge. So for any knowledge to take place, you need an appropriate means of knowledge. And this in Sanskrit is called pramanam. The most, the most available means of knowledge that we know, the most famous means of knowledge is very, very clear for us. What is that? That is called pratyaksha pramana, or the sense organs of perception. If you see, everything in our life, everything in our world is only because of these sense organs. When these sense organs are asleep, when I'm asleep, then the whole world is as though non-existent. So it is the sense organs, this pratyaksha pramana, organs of perception, that give me access to this world that I live in. So this is called direct sense perception. It becomes a means of knowledge for me. Direct sense perception, first one is, of course, eyes, because when I open my eyes in the morning, the world becomes evident to me. Forms and colors, sometimes the eyes might not open as quickly as I want them to, but still, when I open the eyes, what happens? Forms and colors come into the picture. I see people, I see objects, and the eyes bring in knowledge of form and color. But we have to add, knowledge cannot take place without something backing the eyes, because my eyes could be open, but knowledge may not be taking place. We know we've had experiences of this in our lives as well, where our eyes are open, but when the mind is somewhere else, am I really seeing? I'm not. Where somebody is saying, where are you? Oh, did you see that? Your mind is totally somewhere else, in some other country even. It can be in some other location. It can even be in outer space. You could be thinking of Jupiter, and somebody is asking you to watch a video that they're just showing, but you don't register anything because mind is not backing the eyes. So for knowledge to take place, you need the mind to back the eyes. So when the mind backs the eyes, then form and color are perceived in life. It's the same with the other senses as well. Ears have access to sound. So when there's a sound, what happens? You may be hearing, if you're absorbed in something, you may not even hear what is happening. But if you want to consciously listen, the mind backs the ears and knowledge of sound takes place. When the mind backs the nose, knowledge of fragrance or odor takes place. Same with the tongue. When the mind backs the tongue, taste takes place. And skin is revealing touch. So we are blessed with 5 distinct sense powers for 5 corresponding objects of knowledge. And backed by the buddhi, by the intellect, knowledge cannot but take place. It has to take place. How brilliant this system, this human body is made. Have we ever thought of this? What intelligence has put this together? That my whole body is geared towards getting knowledge of the external world. Now, the problem is not gaining knowledge of the external world. The problem is my reaction to the knowledge. That is where Vedanta comes into the picture, because my reaction to what the senses bring in is dependent on my background, on the way I think. All of that makes me interpret this world according to my background. That is called Jiva Shrishti. My own projections also impact how I deal with the world and how I understand the world. So, I mean, we'll see that, because whole of Vedanta understands, trying to make you understand these wrong projections you have on this world, which is actually not harmful at all by itself. It is my projections on the world that create sorrow and unhappiness in life. So we'll see that after, but you can see now senses are not to blame. Sometimes they're always made the culprit. Oh, my senses are wild, they're running here. The senses, nature is to go out. You can't help it. Bhagavan has built the human form this way. The nature of the sense organs is to perceive this world of perceptions. So anything we deal with in the world falls under pratyaksha pramana, or this direct perception from the sense organs of perception. Every other means of knowledge we have at our disposal is stemming from direct knowledge, pratyaksha pramana. So, as I said, the senses only reveal what their particular object is to reveal. So we have this pratyaksha pramana. I'm only going through a couple because I don't want to bring in, it's a big technical subject in Vedanta, all this means of knowledge, this pramana. There's another pramana that we use quite a lot, which is anumana pramana. Anumana pramana is one-step inference. So the standard example that our scriptures give with this, when you'll be able to understand what they mean, is I see smoke on the hill over there. That is, I see smoke on the hill. But what do I understand? What is the conclusion? There is fire. If there is smoke, there must be fire. That is called one-step perception. Sometimes when you're walking in the mall or shopping center, wherever you are, you call it differently. When you're walking and then you have, I know I have experienced myself, this sudden waft of fantastic, especially the, donut smell, this baked products, you get this smell and you're wondering where is the shop that sells this wonderful product? What do you infer? That is called, you're using your anumana pramana there, means of knowledge, this inference. I smell this donut, therefore I infer the donut shop is nearby, right? So this is called anumana pramana based on pratyaksha pramana. And the Shastra goes on to say there is one-step, two-step, three-step inference also. I'm not going to go into that, but all of science is based on this anumana, actually. And then one more pramana, means of knowledge, which I thought was interesting for you to understand, is called anupalabdhi. In Sanskrit, it is called anupalabdhi. Anupalabdhi means knowledge of absence. This is quite interesting, actually. How do you know a thing is not there? When you say, if I say I'm holding a whale in my hand, what will you all think? You all think I'm a bit loopy, nuts, right? Because what do you know first? You know there is something like whale. You have knowledge already of whale. And I show you this hand and you see it as empty. There is no whale in the hand. How do you know? You know the absence of things also in life. You know the absence of things because you know the presence of that thing also. So when I say I don't see anything, that is also knowledge for us. It is called, as a means of knowledge, called anupalabdhi pramana. So knowledge also, this is pratyaksha knowledge, and anumana, anupalabdhi we've discussed. But there are we gain knowledge of objects not available to the naked eye also. How do we define those? How do we see those? Then we need an extra instrument to perceive something which is not available for the naked eye. We have microscopes to see microbes and other small organisms. And we have telescopes to see larger bodies outside, external. But they're still based on perception, perceptual knowledge. We also have knowledge based on non-verifiable belief. So this knowledge based on non-verifiable belief can come from various texts. Like, Veda talks about Swarga. That's a non-verifiable belief. The nearest equivalent to Swarga is heaven, but we cannot really translate. It is not equivalent to Christian heaven or Islamic heaven. It is different, Swarga. But it's a knowledge based on non-verifiable belief. After death, what happens? That is also revealed in many scriptures. They have their own ideas of after death, non-verifiable belief. So all of this is how we gain knowledge in life. Very interesting. All of our experiences in life can be put into these ways we gain knowledge. And my interaction, my reaction to how this knowledge is understood. There's a verse in Kathopanishad, very famous verse, Paranchikani vyatrinat swayam bhuhu tasmat paran pashyati nantaratman. That mantra says, the Lord, the one who has intelligently put together all these bodies and also this whole universe, he has built the senses so they point outwards. He has destroyed, in fact, the mantra says that Lord has destroyed the sense organs by making them extroverted, pointing outwards. Because Pashyati Nantaratman, they cannot perceive what is not available for sense perception. This is where the Veda becomes a pramana. They cannot perceive the self. They cannot perceive consciousness, because of which everything exists in life. So in all the pramanas that we have seen so far, this knower continues to be the subject related to the object to be known. There's always a subject related to an object. But our Veda brings, our Shastra brings in a sixth pramana, a sixth means of knowledge, according to the tradition, and this is called Shabda Pramana. It is in the form of words. Here, the truth of the imperceptible, unfathomable, unobjectifiable, that is revealed with this pramana, with this means of knowledge. This means of knowledge is, it makes the very subject into the object. Now, that sounds very cryptic. The very subject becomes an object, actually. That meaning the subject and object, when you understand consciousness lights up subject and object, there is no subject here. There is only consciousness lighting up the subject and all the objects. We'll see that more in further verses. But this Shabda Pramana is known as Veda, and it's a means of knowledge in the form of words. Words become a means of knowledge. Now, if I say it is not, you will have to question now. I hope some bells are ringing in people's minds, because I'm saying here, this knowledge is not of something which is objectifiable. And all knowledge that we know so far, means of knowledge, are to objectify things outside. How is this a means of knowledge then? If it is not objectifiable, how can it be a means of knowledge? So it is a very unique means of knowledge. It's a very different means of knowledge because it doesn't really give you knowledge. That sounds very funny, right? It doesn't really give you knowledge. What does it do? It removes ignorance of what is there already. It removes, this pramana removes ignorance of the self, of Atma, which is already there, which you already are. So you're not gaining any new knowledge with this means of knowledge. It is simply to remove all the wrong notions that surround that self, the self that you think is limited, the self that you identify with, that self which is lacking, that self which is small, that self which is always wanting something or other, running after things all the time to feel full and complete, that self which you think you are, all those notions are negated by this pramana, because you're made to see the self that you really are. When all the wrong notions are negated, what happens? The self-revealing, self-shining Atma, which is your true nature, consciousness, it cannot but shine. You understand yourself without having to find yourself, discover yourself. It finds you. I would say the self finds you. You don't find the self. Once you remove all the ignorance about what you are not, the self finds you, that self which is already there. So we have seen now this pramana is an important topic to understand, because this means of knowledge cannot be contradicted by other means of knowledge. You can see that clearly, because can the ears contradict my eyes? Can the ears tell me, oh, the ears tell the eyes, oh, you're not seeing that object clearly? Can the ears talk to the eyes and say that? If the ears could talk, they cannot contradict the eyes. Why? Because the ears have their own sphere of operation, which is sound. The ears cannot contradict the eyes because the eyes have the own sphere of operation, form, and color. Similarly, my tongue cannot fight with my skin. No, that's not a very good example. My tongue cannot fight with my nose, right? My tongue cannot say, oh, nose, you didn't smell that properly. Or the nose can't say, oh, tongue, you didn't taste that properly, because nose operates with smell, tongue operates with taste. So each has its operation, sphere of operation. So the pratyaksha pramana, none of them can contradict each other, and therefore they cannot also contradict Veda. Veda is also an independent means of knowledge because it's dealing with a totally different subject matter. It doesn't deal with what is pratyaksha, what is available for perception. It deals with what is imperceptible. So this topic, although Swami Dayananda would spend, I've only spent a little time, but he would spend days on the topic of means of knowledge, because if the Vedanta is not taken as a means of knowledge, all of the study will only remain bookish knowledge. It's very, clear. This study that we do will remain only bookish knowledge. Many people say that you're studying all these books again and again, reading all these Vedanta texts. It's the attitude towards the words that make the difference here in this knowledge. Just as when I open my eyes, I trust my eyes see the form and color, right? I immediately see an object and I trust my eyes. Do I need to will my eyes to see anything? Like here's a bell. So I trust my eyes to see this. When I open my eyes, I see the bell. So in the same way, I don't have to use my will there. That's important. I don't tell my eyes, look at that, it's a bell, it's a bell, it's a bell. I don't have to keep telling my eyes, because it's very natural. Knowledge takes place. So in the same way, this Vedanta means of knowledge requires trust. And that trust is, the word for trust, but it contains a lot more meaning in Sanskrit, is Shraddha. Very beautiful word in Sanskrit. Shraddha means a commitment pending discovery for yourself, a commitment to something pending discovery. So I'm committed to this Shabda Pramana, the means of knowledge, using this means of knowledge to understand the truth of myself. If you see it, we believe so much in other means of knowledge. We have so much belief. Even in microscope, you don't tell if you're doing a lab experiment and you're in the lab and somebody says, oh, look at this bacteria under the microscope. And you don't tell the person, I will only look at the bacteria if you promise me that it will work. If you promise me I'll see the bacteria, then I will look at the bacteria, right? That doesn't make sense. You have to use the means of knowledge to see for yourself. So nobody can tell you really that Veda is, going to give you this result. You have to use the means of knowledge. You have to follow what is prescribed, the way of unfoldment that is given, and discover for yourselves how this knowledge takes place. And this knowledge, what is the uniqueness of this knowledge? Again, with any subject, you need some experts on the subject, right? If you go to, if you want to study a master's in biology, you don't go to a physics teacher, right? Or you don't go to some other teacher of some other place. The biology teacher, professor will know how to unfold his or her subject. So in the same way, this Shastra requires correct handling. And this handling is not just one person. The beauty of this knowledge is that this correct handling, systematic unfoldment has been handed over for thousands of years by our rishis. It is not just one person who has suddenly said, oh, I'll talk about this Upanishad this way, or I'll take this Bhagavad Gita verse and I'll make it my own. That is, again, will give the wrong unfoldment, not the correct understanding in the minds of the listener. So this handling of the Shastra is very important, and there's a key, and that key is called Sampradaya in Sanskrit. Sampradaya means Samyak Diyate iti Sampradaya, that which is very well given, that which is totally given to the listener. That is called Sampradaya, which is a lineage, a tradition that has been handed over, the handling of the words of Vedanta, handing over, giving clarity to students, generation after generation after generation, and it is still alive today's day and age. If you can imagine, in India especially, and India especially, there are many gurukulas, traditional gurukulas, where they teach this knowledge, and it is kept in its pristine form because the language is Sanskrit, and Sanskrit never changes. The beauty of Sanskrit language is from Upanishad time, it has not changed. It has maintained its pristine form, handed over to us today. So there's been no modification to Upanishads or the Gita, nothing. It has come down pristinely and wholly, fully. So Sampradaya, tradition, becomes very important because the people who have studied under the tradition know how to handle the words properly. So there's, I think I was just thinking about how to convey this correct handling. And I remember in many books or many TV shows people watch, there is something called the whisperer. You have the horse whisperer, the elephant whisperer, all these people who know how to handle these particular animals properly. They know how to deal with them. Somehow they have the secret communication with the particular animals to understand the language of the animals. So they become whisperers. So I thought we are all guru, we are all Shastra whisperers. Whoever is communicating this knowledge from Vedanta is also a whisperer, type of whisperer, because there is a cryptic language here. And through the tradition, there's been unfoldment of the words. So this is the importance of Pramana Buddhi, seeing the texts as a means of knowledge for your self-discovery, for your own spiritual enlightenment, spiritual success. So there are different, I want to bring in, there are different types of texts that we have. So you can understand what text we are going to study now. So what is called Shruti? Shruti means heard. So we have some texts called Shruti. The heard texts are straight from the rishis, straight from the Lord. They are apaurushaya, which means not composed by any human beings. These texts have come from the mantra drashtas, the seers of the mantras. So these great seers, what did they do? They tuned into the frequency of these mantras, which were already in the ether. They're already there, and these rishis had the tuning frequency. So in meditation or in deep, deep contemplation, they were able to pick up these mantras. So Shruti has become Veda. Shruti is the name given to the 4 Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva. These are the oldest texts, actually, known to mankind. Rig Veda is the oldest text known to humanity. So Shruti is Veda. But there are other texts that uphold what is talked about in the Veda. There are other texts, such as the most popular one that you probably know, Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita also contains the knowledge of the Upanishads, knowledge of what is in the Veda. So Bhagavad Gita also becomes a means of knowledge along with Shruti, the Veda, because the subject matter of both are one and the same. So any text that holds up, it doesn't have to be even in India, it can be in any language. Any text that talks about this knowledge is called means of knowledge. So any pramana, if it upholds what the Veda unfolds, then it is pramana. But Bhagavad Gita is not given the title of Shruti because it is not directly heard. It is Smriti. It is authored by the rishis. So Gita, we know, many of us will know, it is documented by Veda Vyasa, a great seer in the tradition, because Gita forms the part of the larger text Mahabharata. So he is the one who is said to have documented the verses of Mahabharata. So traditionally, these texts are studied in, when you do a long-term course of Vedanta study in any Gurukula, like a 3.5 year course, we study from the Veda, we study 10 principal Upanishads. I'm not going to repeat all of that here, but just so you understand, the 10 principal Upanishads, principal because Adi Shankaracharya has written commentaries for all the 10. So they become very important in the tradition. Bhagavad Gita is, of course, part of the study that is also included. And we have another third literature, Brahma Sutra. This is an analytical book where the subject matter is analyzed in terms of the contradictions that you see arising in all the other texts studied. So the Brahma Sutra consolidates all the conflicts that you have, and it gives answers to anything, any questions that you have throughout your study of the other texts. Brahma Sutra will analyze and clear the confusion. So Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutra form the main body of text studied in long-term courses, and they're called Prasthana Trayam or Prasthana Trayi. But we have also so much more literature is there, but we have another form of literature which is often taken up by our Gurukulas, our acharyas, which are called Prakarana Granthas. That is what we are dealing with now. So we are not doing a long-term Vedanta course. We are embarking on our Vedanta studies. So the various gurus in the lineage, various gurus in the Guru Parampara have been very kind to us. They need not have done that, but they have been very kind, and they've authored their own books to make the study into Upanishads much easier for us. So they have, through the ages, there have been many teachers who have taken up this task of, the more modern approach to the Vedanta and how to communicate the cryptic knowledge of Upanishads in a concise form so that people can understand clearer before they embark in the Upanishad study. These texts are called Prakarana Granthas. They are introductory texts. And many of these Prakarana Granthas, the ones that we are going to particularly see, Tattvabodha, Vivekachudamani, they explain certain words in Sanskrit that you need to understand before you study further. There are many words and concepts in Vedanta which are not understood properly. What is ego? We use this word ahankara is the equivalent of ego in Sanskrit, ahankara. What is this ahankara? So we always think, you should not have ahankara, give up your ego, you should not. So that is made clear in the Prakarana Granthas. Ahankara is something that cannot be given up. If you give up ahankara, you will die. So the understanding of what ego is is not the understanding of ego in Sanskrit. Ego is the sense of I sense. And if you give up your I sense in this world, you will be good as corpse. You need I sense to interact with the external world. So words like this are explained. What is ahankara? What is the mind, in fact? When we say in English, mind, we use one broad word for our thinking, mind. What is this mind? So these books dissect what the mind really is and what the thought forms that form this thing called the mind are. Mind is totally different understanding in this book. So these beginners books are like, grantha literally means stringing or tying together certain terminologies that you need for your study. So what terminology? So many terminologies. As I said, we have so many terminologies we don't know. And this Tattvabodha especially, Vivekachudamani is like, Tattvabodha under a microscope will be Vivekachudamani. It is Tattvabodha magnified is Vivekachudamani. So both texts become very important because Tattvabodha is known by many people in the tradition, but what I thought is to bring in verses which magnify your understanding of Tattvabodha. Like in Vivekachudamani, for example, the three bodies, we are actually, a human being is envisaged as being a composite of three bodies, not one body. Generally, we think we're only this gross body, right? Of course, after some spiritual study, you will understand that you're much more than the gross body. But how many bodies are there? So the one model that our Shastra introduces in the Tattvabodha that's introduced is the Sharira Trayam concept, the concept of three bodies. And it brings in to some extent. But Vivekachudamani takes it another level higher. So there are many, many more verses in Vivekachudamani covering this topic, whereas Tattvabodha is in smaller section. Vivekachudamani covers in a more deep and more profound analysis of the three shariras is done. What is the benefit now? Because before you begin on, this is like an introductory class, so you can see whether it is really going to be benefit for you, because many people may have joined to just see what it's all about. So if this rings true for you and it appeals to you, then you can continue your studies. But what is the benefit of Tattvabodha Vivekachudamani study? First of all, these give you the ability to gather this knowledge, self-knowledge, in a systematic method that is very important for the study to bless you in your day-to-day life. So it is not divorced again from your day-to-day life. If the systematic methodology of study is followed, you will see the impact on your life, day-to-day life. The way you perceive things will definitely shift if you assimilate what is being said. So this is one benefit. Another benefit is if you're really a mumukshu, you're one who desires freedom, who understands what liberation is. I haven't done here introduction to Vedanta, but most of you may be aware of what moksha is. And if you're really after moksha, you understand what moksha is, then you understand also you cannot stumble on yourself. You cannot stumble on yourself for liberation. You need an external source to reveal the self to you, like you need a mirror for you to see your own eyes. You cannot just see your own eyes with themselves, right? Your own eyes cannot see themselves. You need an external source to reflect your eyes. So this is also the external source in these books that will help you understand what it is you really want. And other benefit is, if you're interested in studying Vedanta, taking up other texts, if you understand this jargon given in these two texts, it is called Paribhasha Shabda in Sanskrit. If you understand the Paribhasha Shabda, all the jargon, like for instance, I picked up a few words in biology. I've never heard of these words. Abiogenesis, some biologists may be here. Adaptive radiation, anabolism, cytolysis, disruptive selection. What do we understand by this? If you're a biologist, of course, you will understand. Forget biology. If I watch a cricket match, like, just recently here, I think the Ashes are going on. So some people were watching the Ashes, and I did not understand a word. Googly, square leg, mid-off, duck, silly point. How so many different words. Unless you know cricket jargon, you will not understand what is happening in cricket, right? So same with anything. Tennis, Wimbledon is going on. You hear all the time, deuce, love, advantage. If you don't understand this jargon, you won't know what the game is. Same way here, to decipher what Vedanta really is saying, you need to know the jargon of Vedanta. You need to be able to decipher the subtleties of other texts that you study. So here is where these texts become invaluable in this, because they reveal to you, they unfold to you all the jargon that you will need in Upanishad study and in other text study. So this is, a broad picture of why we are taking this text up, and also to understand that it is a pramana. Now we come to the text. So just, today I just wanted to give a brief introduction, and also to just tell you what the text discuss as well, the different texts. So the first text is Vivekachudamani. I took this one first because Tattvabodha is the title is actually full knowledge there. So Vivekachudamani literally in English means crest jewel of wisdom. So crest jewel is something that's worn on the head. It's not worn anywhere else. And what is the ornament of the head here? So that is what Adi Shankaracharya, he is the one who has written this text. And he has called it crest jewel of wisdom because his idea of virtues, his idea of the jewels are very different to humanity's ideas of jewels. What are jewels for Adi Shankaracharya? The jewels are Viveka, discriminative analysis, and we'll see of what. Viveka, Vairagya, dispassion for things of the world. His jewels he envisages for the crest jewel, for this jewel of your mind, are all virtues of the mind. They're all the qualifications of a qualified seeker. Adhikari. These are the jewels that he envisages. So without this jewel, one cannot achieve Atmajnanam or self-knowledge. So Vivekachudamani, he's given a very beautiful title to it, the crest jewel of wisdom, Viveka, of discriminative inquiry. And what is this discriminative inquiry? There are many levels of discriminative inquiry. In fact, Viveka sometimes translated to discrimination, but it's not a very nice word. We hear it, gender discrimination, racial discrimination, so many transgender discrimination, so many different types of discriminations. We don't like that word discrimination. It is not discriminating against anything. It is a discriminative analysis. And the first discriminative analysis that one does is the dharma and adharma viveka. So the first level of viveka is between what is right thing to do in life and what is wrong. What is right and what is wrong. So you may think, oh, that's very clear. I know what is right and wrong. But many times we look back in our lives, we find that we did not know the difference between right and wrong. If we knew clearly what is right and what is wrong, we will never have regrets in life. Agreed? Regrets only come when I look back and I say, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Why did I do that? So because at that time, you did not have the viveka between what is right thing to do and what is not right to do. So the first level of inquiry is dharma adharma vivekaha. This becomes an important qualification to gain in your spiritual progress. And it is not so easy, even though it sounds very easy. I know what's right and wrong, but sometimes we are confused in life. Like Arjuna was also confused. In the first chapter, he was very confused. He said, he said, Dharma sammuda chetaha, oh Lord, I am totally clouded. My mind, I don't know what to do in my life. You have to help me, Lord, decide what the right thing to do is. So that is where Krishna's teaching came into the picture and helped Arjuna make the right decision in his life. So what is the use of this type of discriminative analysis? If you do this for everything you do in life, any actions you take, then you will be a conflict-free person. The result of dharma, adharma, viveka is to make you conflict-free person. And that is what you want. You will not have any internal conflicts. If you do adharma, pursuing your goals and doing the wrong thing, hurting others, we know many people do that because the desire is so strong. They don't mind compromising ethics, ethical norms to achieve the goal, achieve their desire. If you do that, our Shastra says you may achieve your goal, you may achieve your desire, you may get what you want, but you will not get a restful night. You will not get, because the blessing is what? When you follow dharma, the blessing is automatic. It is conflict-free mind. If you go against dharma, what happens? You may get the object of your desire, but the law will not allow you to enjoy your desire because you will have the conflict between the thinker who knows I'm doing wrong. The thinker knows it's the wrong thing to do, but the doer does it anyway. You have created an internal conflict in yourself automatically by taking wrong action because your desire is so strong. So dharma, adharma, vivekaha, very important first crest jewel that Adi Shankara talks about. The next crest jewel, vivekaha, is purushartha vivekaha. Purushartha vivekaha is being clear about your priorities in your life. This, in all our professional life, even our family life, one has to be clear about priorities. What is it I really am after in life? That is why we spend quite a few months discussing an introduction to Vedanta, what it is I'm really seeking in life. And after that analysis is done, you will only come to one answer, one conclusion. Anywhere, any human being, anywhere in the world, speaking any language of any color, will come to only one conclusion. What is that conclusion? Through all the pursuits in my life, what I really want, what I really seek is to be happy. I want to be happy. I want to live happily, free from sorrow. I do not want to be happy one day in a week, or 1 week in a year, or 1 year in a lifetime. I want to be happy 24/7, and I want to be free from sorrow. I do not want to feel sorrowful. This is what everyone ultimately wants. And if you examine what you're doing in your life, you will also see everything you do is for your own happiness. Upanishad reveals that Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. Everything we do in our life is for that pleased self to feel happy. I never go after sorrow in life. In fact, I'm getting rid of sorrow because it's not my nature. Whenever I feel sorrowful, I want to get rid of it. Either I take antidepressants, or I go somewhere, watch a movie, or so many ways of getting rid of our sorrow. But we do something to get rid of it because it is not our nature. Our nature is to be happy. Our nature is to want happiness. So Purushartha Vivekaha, this discriminative analysis about what one is really seeking in life, that has to be done. Then the third type of Viveka that the Shastra discusses, again, another crest jewel on the jewel of this Adi Shankara's Vivekachudamani. This third Viveka is Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha. And this is the definition that the text will bring in. Nitya anitya vastu vivekaha means the discriminative analysis between what is impermanent in life and what is permanent. We do not know as yet what is permanent. So we cannot do fully this discriminative analysis unless we've studied a little. But are we not clever enough to know what is impermanent? I am sure all have lived enough of life to know what is impermanent. Everything, basically. Everything is impermanent. Anything you have lived with, anyone you have lived with, anything, object you have owned, everything has been impermanent. Impermanent means it's with you for some time in your life. It lasts for some time and then it departs. Whole of life is like this. We are all, meetings and partings, meetings and partings. No one or no thing is permanent in anybody's life. No object is permanent in anybody's life. This analysis, if it is done, then I will give this world and the objects of the world and people of the world the importance they are due, which is less than what I'm giving right now. I am giving a lot of importance to this world, people and objects because I put my faith in them. I put my security in them, and I'm putting actually my faith and my belief and my hope in the insecure. That which is always failing, liable to come and go, I'm putting my faith in that. Is that prudent? Is it intelligent living? No. If you examine a little, that is what Viveka means. It is not intelligent living because I'm always going to get hurt. It is not the world that hurts me. It is my own projection, my expectation of the world to give me what it cannot give. I give undue importance to the world. I give extra value to the world, thinking it is going to fulfill me, going to satisfy me, and I end up disappointed because it never can do. It is built like that. It is impermanent. That is called anitya in Sanskrit. See what is impermanent in life. Are you really happy with impermanence? If you say yes, then you don't need to study Vedanta. Actually, you don't. Some people may say yes. If you're happy living in the world with all impermanent things, you like to live this life of up and down, something comes, you're happy, something goes, you're unhappy, then fine. That is how majority of mankind is living. But if you're not happy with impermanence, if you know there is something more, there has to be something more to this world than this coming and going, then Vedanta comes into the picture. And that is where the next text, the title of the next text, Tattvabodha. Tattvabodha means, Bodha means knowledge. Tattva means thatness. That Tva means ness. That essence, that Bodha, the knowledge of that is what Tattvabodha means. The knowledge of the reality of everything, that which is permanent. Everything is, we've seen, is impermanent in the world. Then is there such a thing as permanent? That is where the pramana, means of knowledge, called Vedanta, comes into the picture and says, yes, there is something permanent, and that is called that. That is called that. It's just got one word, that. But we will have to unfold that. That takes lifetimes maybe to unfold. It's not so easy to understand that. That is what the study of Tattvabodha is. Tasya bhavam iti tattvam. It's an abstract noun of tat. The reality of everything that is impermanent is the one permanence in this whole universe. That one permanence our Upanishads reveal as Brahman. Brahman is a name given. It is only a name. But that Brahman speaks of limitlessness, consciousness, the truth of everything that is impermanent. This is the tattva that is being discussed in Tattvabodha. So tattvasya bodha means the knowledge of the essential truth of the Lord, of this universe, and of yourself. You are no different. The basis for all the three, myself, God, what I consider as God and the world are one and the same. And that is what is called Advaita. Advaita means the non-dual reality. I think there is separateness. I think there are differences here. What the Upanishads and Vedanta reveal, essentially, there is non-difference. There is no difference between anyone. There is no difference between anything. There is only one truth that underlies all the differences, that pervades all the names and forms and functions that we see. And this one truth we call by different names, different languages, different names. We can give any name we want, but it doesn't change that truth because it is changeless, limitless, and it is Ananda, Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, limitlessness, which is what you are in essence. So Tattvabodha means knowledge of this truth, well ascertained, clear knowledge. These are the two texts that I'm going to combine, and you will get a clear picture of the whatever we've discussed, the terminologies and everything for your further study, if any of you want to go on to further study. So I will conclude today here, and hopefully my recommendation is that, we have a very initially there's a lot of enthusiasm for, everything. But this knowledge is not instant. It is not Moksha 101, moksha without tears. There's no promise like that. Vedanta is a lifetime journey. Vedanta takes time. So if you really want to benefit, committed, consistent study of the text, giving aside this time, other things will come up, definitely. We have so many umpteen things that come up in life. Everyone is busy. But if we can commit some time for our spiritual pursuit, for this self-discovery, and the regular, committed, systematic study is what works wonders. If it is 1 week on, 3 weeks off, 5 weeks on, 3 weeks off, like that, it is not going to help you. So this is something you can all take into consideration. Try and make it a priority. If you find that it's helping you, you try a few classes, then see and continue it for a length of time, and it will really bless you in your day-to-day life. It will really bless you in how you deal with the world. That is the ultimate goal that we want. So we will meet next week. If anybody has questions, you can write to Niru or other members of the team, and I can answer them in the next session. Okay, so we'll finish with the concluding prayers. Om Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet, asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityor ma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om. Wish you all an Ishvara-filled week ahead. Hari Om.